In the bliss of ignorance, mighty giants exist. The sky turns angry, raining down boulders of dust set ablaze. Today their death is a must. Demons of rocks approach, rain of chaos to land. An epic song, an orchestra of death, 60 million years to pass. Notes of debris set to sound. It is played loud and strong to pummel from above on waters, cities, and lands. A scientist looks to the sky, her thoughts secure humankind's fate. Doom is set, there is an end date. A plan is presented, all nations agree. Humans will not die. Coming together with one goal, one task. Our destiny is not to fade or drift away, but working as one, our mark is here, it will stay. A Pluribus Unum, a place for all to exist. One from many is the cry, many nations to one people. In the shadows awaits, set to destroy. Glory to God, his might will be obeyed. The many against the one. Sabotage, sacrifice, chaos. The plan for one must never be a friend's embrace. Love is secured, coded whispers forever here, unafraid. A pilot of great resolve, strength and control. Into the rocks at her command. Vandu rising, side by side, conquering the dust beast. Success today, coming together in a feast. A Pluribus Unum, one from many, all to see. Be the massive and grand, break the bonds of gravity. A Pluribus Unum, hearts on fire. A symphony of hope, one voice to inspire. From many the one, the stars belong to us. A new dawn arise in an endless night. Our hearts as one, many nations together. E Pluribus Unum, it shall be done.
Year 8. Year 8, Month 2, Week 3 Day. 1 hour, 22 minute, 15 second, 43. Earth date, 80203012221543. Chapter 10. Pasini sat tense in her command seat. The Mayday beacon signal from the Bonghwang would ping strong for a few hours, then fade to background noise for hours more, then strong again, then fade again. This pattern started almost immediately after the Vandu broke orbit and vectored for the Bonghwang's last known position. Bliff said, "Captain, asteroid coming up. Optics show rotation off-center." "Any sign of the Bonghwang?" "Chatter." "Negative, ma'am." "How far out is comm?" 1 minute delay. Pasini punched up a comm link to the Bonghwang. She tapped out the command for a tight beam encoded transmission. "This is Captain Tekla Pasini of the Cargoship Vandu, awaiting your response, Captain Park." She tapped in a command to repeat every 5 minutes until the system received a ping back. "How far out are we, Bliff?" Bliff adjusted his seat and tapped at his CRT. 32 hours flyby. Pasini nodded. "Okay, let's start slow decelerate." She checked the fuel gauge, 1/3 left. It would take them a third of that to return to Earth at a very slow burn. "We can do 132G and make it there in 63 hours. Running the numbers, ma'am, Bliff said, a few seconds later. First officer concurs, statement recorded. Signal crew, please. Rotating and burning in 5 minutes. Gravity imminent. About 7 days ago. Kirk sounded apprehensive. Captain, we're ready. Proceed. He tapped in a special code on his CRT. He clicked the comm button. Guys, ready. He heard MacDonald snap. Let's get this done already. I got a bad feeling and it needs to drift away. He entered the command that released the main bolts. Done. Park watched as the remote cameras showed the engine pod detach from the Bonghwang in a dozen puffs of smoke. It drifted about 100 meters when the engine suddenly burst into action. It flared into ignition and burned for several seconds. Kirk said, "What the hell? That's not supposed to happen." Park tapped in the burn sequence for the remaining engines. Tenzin shouted, "Captain, the engine is coming back at us." Sound collision alert, Park shouted as she ignited the remaining engines. Starting 5% burn, how close? Tenzin read off the numbers. 90 meters, 85, 70, 65. Park increased engine burn to 15%. 45, 30. She pushed the engines to 25% and felt a firm push into her seat. This burn is wasting our fuel, she thought. 25, 25, 30, 35, 39. Park watched as the image of Engine 2 started to recede. She dropped engine burn down to 15% and started the hull reaction engines. Read me the numbers on distance from the asteroid. Tenzin tapped at his CRT. 702 meters, 695, 692, 687. 5-second burn lateral to port at 50%. Tenzin repeated per protocol. 5-second burn lateral to port at 50%, sounding alarm. Park cut forward burn down to 2% and increased power to the hull rockets. The asteroid was getting too close at a fast burn, and she wanted to salvage the mission. 672, 669, 666. Kirk snapped. OMG, engine exploded. Tenzin sounded, imminent collision alarm, something no spacer ever wanted to hear. Kirk yelled out over the alarm, engines 1 and 3 redlining, fuel leak. Park shut off the engines and rolled the Bonghwang 45 degrees. Most of the bottom hull would take the remaining damage. Tenzin exclaimed, multiple hull breaches, safety system initiated. Kirk punched in his comm code to engineering and fire control. Report! He waited several seconds and snapped report. He looked Park in the eye. Captain, I gotta go and handle this firsthand. He handed her his code list that had been taped to his station. Line 5 will be secured. Park nodded and watched as her chief engineer head into danger. The Bonghwang shook violently. 2 in-ship explosions. Main lights blinked out. Darkness was replaced with an amber glow. 302 meters to surface. Park tapped out the override codes for the engines. She used the reaction engines to angle the Bonghwangs aft toward the asteroid and ignited engine 4. 100% burn. 251 meters, 223 meters, 195 meters, 172 meters. Burn at 102%. 163, 159, 157, 155, 154. Park throttled the engine thrust down. Burn at 10%. 153, 152.5. She let out the breath she had been holding and nudged the reaction engines to get the Bonghwang parallel with the asteroid's surface. Tenzin started counting down in increments of 20 meters. Once the craft was within 20 meters, did Park increase the reaction engines to 50% to further slow the craft's descent. 30 minutes later, the Bonghwang was firmly on the surface. Tenzin, Park started, have everyone in full emergency suit with soft mask at the side. Will do, ma'am. Shift cycle. Park thought for a moment. Ration shift, 4 on, 8 off. Ship midnight mark 0. No gym, main lights at 3/8, 1 bottle of grog per shift. He nodded. You and I will do 4 on, 4 off. Nah. Kirk and what was left of his staff finished strengthening the core spine. They started repairing the more extensive hull damage 24 hours ago. Park sat at the head of the ready room table. The minute gravity allowed her to place a cup of coffee on the table, without having to use any of the various Velcro strips littering the tabletop. With practiced ease, she was able to lift the cup toward her lips and sip at the warm liquid without it getting splashed in her face. Kirk glided into the room and took a seat. He was still in his EVA suit, holding his helmet. The microgravity allowed everyone to move effortlessly in a slide and glide sort of walk. A nice push-off, and one could travel pretty far before touching the floor. With a light tap and push, one could travel several more meters before the asteroid's gravity pulled one gently to the floor. Dr. Grenier entered next. She preferred flying as opposed to sliding. She took a seat off Park's left. Cookie entered with a low height bounce and skip. He sat and waited. The head of security, Tira Alton, flew in and expertly stopped with a series on hand grabs at floor bolts. She somersaulted across the table and took her place next to Kirk. Alton said, "Ta-da." Park shook her head and chuckled. Alton had always been one for theatrics. "You first, Cookie." "Supplies are in good shape. We have enough under normal rations for another 2 years. Water is at 80%, which is good. As long as we can recycle, we're good well past 2 years. All crew members are eating." Park nodded. "Doc, we have 5 crew down still. They're patched up, but I won't be able to replace any of the limbs until we get back to C-Zone. Only one will have to be put on permanent light duty. Physical therapy will probably take a year. Checkups are going well. Only several crew left." "Good. Including you," Grenier said. Park blinked several times. "Me, but I haven't had a checkup in 2 years." Park opened her mouth for a moment, then shut it. She did this several times. Kirk giggled and Grenier said, "You, too. And not just, I'm a listening to your heart and let me hear you breathe." Kirk's cheeks flushed a deep red. "Can we talk about this later, Doc?" Grenier smiled. "Certainly, while you look to the left and cough." Cookie's laugh was infectious. "Doc, I need another checkup." Grenier shook her head. "You had yours yesterday." "I know, but you missed a spot." Park paused when she heard crackling over the main broadcast speakers. A barely discernible female voice said, "This is Captain Tekla Pasini of the Cargoship Vandu. Awaiting your response, Captain Park." Cookie said, "By the goddess, that voice sounds like sweet heaven." Park finished her coffee and handed the cup to Cookie as she darted to the door. She stopped and faced everyone. "Meeting adjourned." Pasini waited. Time ticked by and she guiltily wondered about the Bonghwang's asteroid. "Bliff." "Yes, ma'am." "Run a spectral on." Bliff soberly said, "I did." Pasini cleared her throat, and Bliff took a deep breath. 3, maybe 4 trillion credits worth. Pasini whispered, "My goddess," and after a few seconds, "My goddess." Silence uneasily hung between them. Bliff said, "Captain." Pasini slowly shook her head. "I'm almost ashamed I thought it." Bliff blushed. He nodded. Then the main command monitor beeped. Pasini had it set to broadcast on signals from the Bonghwang. "Captain Pasini, this is Captain Park. Acknowledging last broadcast. Ship is intact. Structural damages are being repaired. 1 operational engine. Crew is safe, with 4 loss of limb injuries. No imminent emergencies. Supplies are in good shape. What is your ETA over?" Pasini and Bliff exhaled audibly. "Well, Captain, it was a nice dream," Bliff said. Pasini nodded. She clicked on the mic and transmit icons. "Captain Park, we read you 5x5 and send an OK. ETA 60+ hours over." Park sat at the command station and brought up the Vandu's schematics. She specifically noted engine specs and fuel capacity. She was able to triangulate the Vandu position by using the asteroid's rotation and simple geometry, angle-side angle. Tenzin maneuvered to the nav station. "Captain, orders." Park nodded. "Get the velocity of the Vandu, please." "Yes, ma'am." After several seconds, he said, 298,990 kilometers per hour. Park brought up a calculator on the monitor. Tenzin leaned in and said, "Cheating, Captain." Park laughed. "No, just double-checking. I'll keep your secret if you convince Cookie to show some gratefulness to me in the form of lamb." His smile was wide. Park replied, "You'll have to do better than that." Her smile was just as wide. Pasini checked her watch. Several minutes had passed, then she heard Park over the speaker. "Captain Pasini, I'd like you to entertain a thought, please. Data is being sent now. Please record. Thanks, over." "Got that, Bliff?" "Yes, ma'am. Recorder is on, data coming in." After a few minutes, Pasini replied, "Captain Park, data received and checksum reads okay. We'll get back to you in a few, out." Pasini and Bliff studied the data. Park had laid out a plan that would get the Vandu to the asteroid in 36 hours. It required several hard burns, but at very short durations that would bring the Vandu just short of behind the asteroid, while saving fuel by 15%. With one medium hard stop, the asteroid's gravity would capture the Vandu and drift her to the surface. From there, the Vandu would maneuver a landing next to the Bonghwang. Pasini said, "What does the computer say?" "Error is within 3%. Even at 10%, we'd still be able to do it and save fuel. Who is their nav?" Pasini pressed the comm button. "Captain Park, our nav and computer concur. Question who did the calculations, over." After 2 minutes, the reply was short. "I did." Pasini smiled. Year 8. Year 8, month 2, week 3, day 3, hour 10, minute 13, second 27. Earth date, 80203033101327. Chapter 11. Pasini clicked the ship broadcast icon on her CRT. "Attention crew, this is the captain. Final approach. Secure ship for soft landing. Dress in EVs with soft masks in place and helmets in the carry. Start after 5 bells warning. Out." She brought up the aerial map and entered the Bonghwang's coordinates relative to the asteroid's geometry. Bliff started landing sequence. "Captain, landing is set." Pasini said, "Very good. Broadcast 5 bells and let's start." "Aye, ma'am." Park watched the monitor closely. The Vandu smoothly and softly landed about 50 meters away. Seconds later, the Vandu's landing gear bolted themselves to the surface. Over the speakers, "Captain Park, Vandu has landed. Permission to come aboard." Park's smile was slight. She toggled the transmit switch on. "Captain Pasini, permission granted. The green all clear LED will illuminate the airlock." She toggled transmit off. "Captain Park, see you in a few, out." Park sat back. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Rescue and salvage. She pressed the comm button to mess. "Cookie." "Yes, ma'am." "Warm up that grog. We're having company over." "Aye, Captain. Scuttle's already made the rounds. Grog is nice and warm. Any special request other than skilly?" "Can you whip up a cheesecake?" "Yes, ma'am. Methinks a chocolate mousse would do right." "Excellent. And Ada, we have cherries." "Yes'm." "Cookie." She heard Cookie's hearty laugh. "Yes, ma'am." "A cherry vanilla swirl, too." "On it, Captain." She clicked off, got up and headed to the doorway. Tenzin pressed several buttons, got up and followed her out to the airlock. Guest was coming. The airlock lights cycled from unsafe to all clear. Park pressed the open button and the door swooshed out of the way. Captain Pasini and Commander Bliff crossed the threshold. Both officers removed their helmets. Park extended her right hand. Pasini, then Bliff firmly shook. "Welcome aboard the Bonghwang, Captain, Commander." Pasini nodded. "Please, just Pasini. And this is my first officer, Bliff." Park and Tenzin nodded. "Call me Park, please. And this is Tenzin, my first officer." "Please follow me. We have accommodations for you. We'll dine in my quarters." Pasini smiled. She liked this captain. She also thought her natural beauty engaging. "Park, may I ask you a question?" The group slowly drifted down the main corridor. "Certainly." "Your course calculations." "Yes." "I had our computer run random scenarios. It took 300 tries before it hit yours." Park nodded. "How?" Tenzin coughed. "Beggin' your pardon and the captain's, ma'am. The captain here is a computer. I've seen her work out maneuvers in her head in seconds. She'll only use a calculator when there's too many unknowns. Pasini said, I see. Park nodded and chuckled. Tenzin is easily impressed. I'm good with numbers. Well, I'm impressed too. Thanks, and here we are. Your quarters and the commander's is next door. We're informal here, more so since we're running on ration shifts. Park pressed a button and led the two in. The cabin was a 5-by-7-meter room. A single twin was at one end, and a desk, monitor, and computer access at the other. The head had a vacuum spray toilet with a vacuum mist shower. An entertainment console was located at the foot of the bed. Park said, the pantry is stocked with snacks, drinks, and grog. Pasini replied, thank you, very much appreciated. What watch are you running off? Park asked. Second dog watch. Park clasped her hands. Excellent, this would be our afternoon watch. Dinner for you, lunch for us. Would 30 minutes be enough time? Pasini smiled. Yes, she liked this one. Perfect, plenty of time. Park nodded. I'll personally escort you too then. Mark 30 minutes. Year 8. Year 8, month 2, week 3, day 3, hour 15, minute 32, second 1. Earth date, 802030-315-30-201. Chapter 12. Cookie personally served dinner, which consisted of chicken skilly thickened with chopped olive oil, sautéed mushrooms, and green onions. The grog was presented in slender ceramic thermos with rubber hand grips. Cookie made sure the initial temperature was perfect. Dessert was a melon lime cucumber gelato with sea salt sprinkled on top. A dab of mint puree was on the side. The cheesecake and mousse pushed the meal across the finish line. Park, Pasini began. What happened? Saboteur, our number 2 engine pod was rigged to vent fuel. After we detached and set it adrift, the engine started up and headed for collision. It exploded, crippling the ship. We lost some crew, of which I'm hoping the saboteur was among them. Pasini nodded. Is the Bonghwang in shape to launch? In a few more weeks. We cannibalized non-essential equipment and wiring. My chief thinks we can be in shape to continue our salvage. Pasini raised an eyebrow. Anger momentarily flashed across her face. Park caught it and nearly laughed. Pasini, we are not heartless. We need your help with this salvage. Pasini relaxed. 50-50 split. Capt Park, most generous. Pasini blushed and took a deep breath. Park's smile widened. This salvage really is the one. We got the big 4 and then some. What's the tonnage? 500 billion. Bliff nearly choked on his grog. Captain, 500 billion. We can't move that. We could, but it'll be 6 months of moving. At least it would have been if only the Bonghwang were doing it. But Park, 500 billion. The most we've done is 1 million tons. The Bonghwang's done 20 billion before. It added 2 months space-time, but it was done. The cut from that allowed me to upgrade to bigger engines. We can get the other 2 engines working, but they won't have any directional ability. The Vandu could work as steering. Pasini said, I'm having a hard time processing this. My idea is we'll bolt Bonghwang aft of the Asteroid. The Vandu will be bolted referred port. We'll use reaction motors to rotate and steer. Pasini nodded. Bliff finished his grog as Cookie brought in a new batch. He grabbed a thermos and sucked out half the grog. He sighed. Okay, I think I can get this. Pasini's smile was genuine. Bliff was a good nav, but she could see his mind rebelling against moving such a large tonnage. What's total move time? Pasini asked. Park replied, 2 months, and that is only with 1 operational engine. What's your red line? Pasini asked. 115%. Bliff nearly choked on his swig of grog again. And how long can you run redline? Park waited for Bliff to finish a swig. He noticed, smiled, and put the thermos down. Okay, I'm ready. With all 4 engines and fuel capacity, before leak it would have been 35 days. Dear Goddess, Pasini whispered. The Bonghwang's engines are state-of-the-art. We were in dry dock for 3 months of retrofit and upgrades. We're classified as an extreme hauler. 500 billion metric tons is not her limit. Pasini was concerned. The very thought of having such a powerful craft hit her with awe. The scuttle had been true. Park leaned in. Pasini, with your cut you can upgrade or get a new hauler. Several more trips like this and you could beef up to a mega pusher. That's my goal. After this haul, the Bonghwang would dry dock again for more upgrades. I planned on getting 4 more aft engines, additional fuel tanks, and 3 remote anchor engine pods. We'd be able to drag 2 or 3 more additional smaller asteroids into transfer orbit. Park. Bliff watched closely. He saw it on his captain's face. He saw her hunger and the allure that came off it. The silence hung for several awkward seconds. Tenzin realized that his captain was taking a liking to Pasini. The moment she stepped on board, he saw how Park's body language changed. Personally, he hoped to one day warm her bed, but he knew Park wasn't into men. At least not overly masculine men. Her taste leaned gynosexuality. But then again, he saw great things happening with Park. If she partnered with Pasini, there would be the question of hierarchy. Would Bliff outrank him? How exactly would he fit in a new power structure? He looked over to Bliff, who was equally concerned. Would the partnership involve a 2-ship operation or a single vessel? Both gave a subdued, nervous laugh and nodded. Pasini's mind raced. She knew what she wanted to say. The question was how to say it and not sound desperate. This moment felt right but scary at the same time. "Park," she said a second time. Park waited. Please ask the question was her thought. Yes. Ever thought about a partnership? At that moment, Cookie entered. "To show our gratefulness and celebrate our partnership," he set a shepherd's pie in the center table, the tradition. The top was a lovely collection of browns, yellows, and tan. The cheese was still bubbly along the edges. He set down additional thermos of grog, plus 2 packets of Pinot Grigio. Each he placed in front of Park and Pasini. Park clasped her hands. "Wonderful, Cookie, this looks delicious." Cookie smiled. "Aye, Captain, perfection." He scooped up small portions to each person, collected spent food tubes and dirty dishes. "Would you be needing anything else, Captain?" "I think we are good, Cookie, but have someone at the ready for at least another couple of hours." "Aye, ma'am, always." He left humming an old shanty. Park turned to Pasini. "I'm glad you asked. I have considered a partnership. I read your bio and that of your crew. Transitory crew thought you even and fair, that's good in any book." Pasini visibly relaxed and smiled. The Vandu was committed. A door opened, and she willingly crossed the threshold. Year 8. Year 8, Month 2, Week 3, Day 3 Hour, 21 Minute 3, Second 57. Earth Date, 802030-321-357. Chapter 13. Linda had been monitoring the situation between the Vandu and Bonghwang. The last transmitted log was that Vandu was in contact with Bonghwang and started to rendezvous with a soft landing on the asteroid. She had read the bios of each captain. Both spent multiple years in space, both former military, both highly respected in their respective circles. Park, however, had an aptitude for numbers and astronavigational computations. So far, no other person could match her ability until now. She had to tell Gale. Ted floated in and sat at the nav station. "How goes the evening?" "Pretty quiet. Good news is that Vandu rendezvoused with the Bonghwang. Captain Park reported several hours ago that repairs would take another week." Linda checked the ship-to-command inbox. There were about 100 new messages. Some were from various inbound or outbound crafts. One ship, the Wakanda, was en route with a 5-billion-ton asteroid. The record was 120 billion. It was about 10 days out from transfer orbit. "Good, getting good news is great," Ted sighed. "Something's wrong," Linda said. "You say that like you know." "I listened to the scuttle, and—" Ted interrupted. "Scuttle, you've been hanging out with the pilots." Linda smiled. "Of course you'd be surprised." Ted leaned forward. "And what is the most talked about scuttle?" "We're behind schedule by 3 months." Figuratively, Ted nearly fell out of the seat. "That's been a tightly held secret." "The one you were going to tell me a minute ago." "Point. Okay, what else does the scuttle say?" "There may be one, or Emnor Ob Uno on every hauler." Ted was silent for a moment. He let his thoughts drift. We've had 5 accidents this week alone. 3 ships have been sabotaged. That includes the Bonghwang. The Governing Ring Independence Division is thinking of stepping up security. Some members are talking about extensive background checks and tagging everyone on this station with tracking implants. That's horrible. Hauler crew will be tagged, and all haulers will send telemetry data 24/7. I see, was all Linda could muster. Ted nodded. It is that bad. Then, we have too many goddamn arrogant delusional males running too many countries. Almost every day is a cockfight. An alarm went off. Linda typed in a command on her CRT. Oh, my goddess, it's BDEX water supply, contamination. Ted, grim, nodded. Maybe I'll recommend the implants. Before Linda could respond, Ted sped out. She sighed. Maybe tracking implants is a solution. The water supply poisoned. That was a step too far gone. Pasini rolled over. She was in Park's bed. She considered her options carefully and decided to commit completely. A space captain's life can be a very lonely one. You have choices that are almost always bad. Sleeping with crew compromises your authority. Sleeping with your first mate or command staff has its own risks. Plenty of lubricate and towels is always the fallback. Park rolled over. How are you feeling, Tekla? Pasini nodded. I'm feeling good. 2 hours later. Park, Pasini, Kirk, Bliff, and Tenzin were assembled in the front deck. Park tapped in a command to communicate with the Vandu. Pasini gave her the code to talk directly to engineering. Engineering here. Pasini said, Ga-ka. Yes, ma'am. Can you prepare a list of engine parts the Vandu badly needs? Certainly, ma'am. Who gets it? Kirk spoke up. Chief, this is Kirk, chief engineer to the Bonghwang. You can send it to the Bonghwang response inbox. We have some spare parts. Some parts we had to pull from our engines, but they're still good. There was an audible ping from Kirk's CRT. He looked at it and laughed. Ga-ka, wow. Ga-ka replied, I know. Finance has been lean and you did ask for a list of badly needed parts. Kirk scanned down to the bottom. Wait, you got a cold infuser. We do. I'd love to replace that first. As of now, the Vandu can safely red line at 0.95 for only a few hours. My friend, I got one for you. You'll red line at over 1.05 easily. There was silence for a moment. Pasini said, Ga-ka, you there? Yes, ma'am. I had to find a towel to wipe my eyes. Hold on, I have to compose myself. Everyone could tell he choked out the last words. Kirk tapped something on his CRT. McDonald. Yes, boss. I sent you a list of parts. Pack what we can spare and prepare it for the Vandu. On it, out. A few seconds later, Kirk's CRT beeped. Kirk hit the speaker icon, blinking in the lower right corner. McDonald's voice rushed out, Boss, seriously. Kirk laughed, Very. And this ship is still running. Pasini blushed. Kirk replied, Speaker on and guest on deck. McDonald said, Sorry, ma'am, but goddess, my heart. McDonald. Yes, boss. Out. Kirk tapped the speaker icon to disconnect the call. Year 8. Year 8 month, 2 week 4 day 4 hour 12 minute 13 second 11. Earth date, 802050 Fort 12 1311. Chapter 14. Park sat at the controls with Tenzin and Kirk at their stations. Pasini and Bliff were back on board the Vandu. Vandu, how are you on your end? Bonghwang is set. The Bonghwang was bolted far aft the asteroid along its longest axis. With the help of Ga-ka and his team, Kirk was able to get Bonghwang's engines 3 and 180% effective with better-than-expected directional control. The Vandu was bolted far stern, perpendicular into the asteroid. The Vandu would act as steering, rolling the asteroid when needed. Both ships, working together, allowed for pitch and yaw. Pasini checked her controls. Bliff, ready. Yes, ma'am. Pasini pressed the comm button. Bonghwang, the Vandu is ready, set to sink, now. Park confirmed, the Vandu was set and ready. Kirk, ready. Yes, ma'am. Okay, Tenzin, sink. The center monitor blinked on. It showed a wireframe outline of the asteroid, Bonghwang, and the Vandu. Park placed her headset on. The VR visor was down. She looked around and saw the multiple floating monitors over each station. She looked at the center monitor and saw a flow on Vandu info readouts. Pasini placed a similar-looking headset on, and the same augmented reality on the Vandu was nigh the Bonghwang. "Sync is confirmed," Pasini said. Park's reply over the headset was, "Confirmed, testing engines." Pasini watched the wired image of the Bonghwang's lines glow a pale green. Fake-looking flames appeared and disappeared after engines. Then, the wired frame image of the Vandu glowed. Its engines flared and died. "Bonghwang, engines sync checked." Park smiled. She said through the headset, "Acknowledged, powering down until 400, over." She heard Pasini's reply, "Confirmed, 400, out." Park took off her headset and set it on top the control panel. She unsnapped her harness and gave a light push. She floated above her seat. Grabbing a top ceiling hold, she slid away from the command area to the door. "Tenzin, place crew on mission shift. Set timer to 3:30 for 30-minute alarm." Tenzin nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Timer set, shift status sent, and message sent to department heads and leads." "Kirk." "Yes, ma'am." "Any leads?" Kirk smiled. "Yes, ma'am, down to 2. Pasini settled in for a short nap. 10 hours they were going to move a 500 billion-ton asteroid to transfer orbit. The Vandu was only rated at 250 million tons, and that was when the Vandu was new. There was something about Park that excited her. She was a hauler, that was for sure, but she could have been one of the segment designers too. Pasini decided Park was exactly where she wanted to be, pushing stones across gravity waves. As Pasini started to drift off, her personal comm channel beeped. She yawned, lifted herself out of bed, and drifted to her desk. She pressed the answer audio-only button. "Pasini here." She heard Park's voice and immediately pressed the video-audio mode button. Park said, "Hey, you." Her face filled the screen with long wisps of hair slowly floating about her shoulders. "I was hoping to catch you before lights out." Pasini smiled. "You did, glad you did. I was just thinking about you." "And I you." Park brought her hand to her face and let several fingers touch her lips. She moved her hand to the screen and lightly brushed the fingers across the screen where she saw Pasini's lips. Pasini did the same thing. "Tomorrow, Odark 100, Bonghwang over." "Tomorrow, Odark 100, Vandu out." The screen went blank. Pasini floated back to bed and drifted to a wonderful handful of hours filled with orgastic dreams. Year 8. Year 8, month 2, week 4, day 4, hour 22-minute 21, second 1. Earth date 80205042222101. Chapter 15. Park had her headset on. She was hit with a flood of information from both ships and the asteroid. Ship-to-ship comm line to both command decks was open. "Tenzin, Bliff, start feeding me gravitation data, please. Also, stop all engine telemetry data and life support. Thanks." The barrage of information stopped. Park could now see her command monitor. She started all engines on the Bonghwang first. Then she put the Vandu's engines on standby. Tenzin said, "All green, ma'am." Park heard Bliff over the loudspeakers. "Vandu all green, Bonghwang." Increasing Vandu's reaction engines and setting aft engines to 85 degrees. Power at 25%. Holding. Tenzin, read off rotation spin, please. Bliff, read out lateral vector, please. The computer displayed relative position to Earth in degrees. Park set Earth as 0 degree. She then set the point 10 million kilometers inward from Earth. She also set a point about 100 million kilometers away from their current position. That was their injection point to a transfer orbit that would short spiral the asteroid to Earth's pickup point. From there, massive mining crafts and haulers would make short work of the asteroid. Park figured it would take 8 months to pulverize their haul, as opposed to weeks from the usually small asteroids her fellow haulers brought in. Tenzin sounded out, estimated 10 hours to rotation stop. Park nodded. Increasing Bonghwang aft engines to 50%, burn time 32 hour. Okay, now we watch the numbers. Course correction in 10 hours. Set. She heard Pasini over the speakers. Next course correction set to -10 hours. And it began. 32 days later. Park studied the display before her eyes. She could see the asteroid was nearly in a perfect course despite odd, weird, and nearly impossible engine shutdowns and fuel leaks. Kirk thought it was one of the reserve engineers. She almost agreed, but there were mishaps when it could not have been the reserve. Increasing aft engines to 95%. Vandu reaction engines at 78%, and Vandu's aft engines increased to 102%. Burn time 1 hour. Gaka said over the speakers, engines are green, red line not reached, fuel at 22%. Park checked the Bonghwang's fuel. It was at 19%. 57 days later. The entire CSON command staff monitored the Bonghwang and Vandu slip the asteroid into a transfer orbit. Linda sat at her station viewing telemetry from the two ships. The insertion point was about 18 minutes away in two-way communications. Linda waited for Park to acknowledge her last transmission. There was a low-level hiss over the overhead speakers. A second later, Linda heard a click. CSON, this is Bonghwang. The asteroid is in place. Ping channel is 252.36, over. Linda tapped out the number on her keyboard. A section of her monitor opened a window with streaming numbers. Her communication headset was snug. One ear was covered by a padded earpiece. The end of the boom mic hovered just in front of her lips. She clicked the transmit toggle switch on transceiver box next to her. Bonghwang, this is CSON. Signal is strong. 5x5. Sending haulers ping channel. ETA will be confirmed after receipt of their position. Standby over. Ted had been pacing the entire time. He stopped, looked over to Linda, then his watch. Another 18 minutes before a reply from the Bonghwang, and about 9 minutes from the group of haulers already dispatched. The haulers had been made in anticipation of what was expected in asteroid sizes. The Bonghwang and others of her class were expected to start bringing in the bigger S and bigger still M-type asteroids. The Bonghwang in particular was expected to push the envelope past 1 trillion tons. The speakers boomed. Hauler Group V-Vector 956, acknowledging channel 252.36. Navsync says rendezvous at 556 hours. Linda toggled transmit. Hauler Group V-Vector 956, CSON acknowledged. Transferring mission control to you. Enjoy, over. Then she tapped on her keyboard. Bonghwang, Hauler Group V-Vector 956 en route. ETA 556 hours. Mission transferred. Acknowledge. You are released to return to dock. Over. It took 2 days for the crew of the Bonghwang and Vandu to bolt both crafts to the asteroid. It took half a day to unbolt both crafts. Park used small bursts from the reaction engines to move the Bonghwang away from the asteroid. With the headset still over her head, she could see the wired image of the Vandu drift away from the asteroid's surface, slowly turn and proceed toward the Bonghwang. Park smiled. This was a good mission with stupid large profit. She and Pasini agreed to form a new corporation. With the profits from this haul, they would retrofit both ships and add 2 more. Bliff would command one while Tenzin commanded the other. All 4 ships would work as a single unit and work on bringing in asteroids in the 10 or more trillion-ton range. With a capable crew, there was no need to think small. Of course, the first thing to do was find the saboteur. She thought about dispensing hauler justice and space the bastard, but cooler heads needed to prevail. The bastard would be brought to trial, then spaced. Several moments later, she heard the message from Linda. Park pushed the transmit button in front of her. CSON, we acknowledge. Hauler Group en route. We are released to dock fall. Out. She pulled the headset away and rested it on a strip of Velcro. She pushed herself out of the chair and aimed for the doorway. Tenzin. Yes, ma'am. Push us out to 100 clicks and hold for the Vandu. She's docking. Tenzin said, Yes, ma'am, as she disappeared into the corridor. Pasini handled docking the Vandu to the Bonghwang herself. It was slow and precise. She fired the reaction engines in short bursts with long moments of drift in between the burst. She felt the slight bump and heard the click-click-click thump of the locking mechanism. Bliff, she said. Yes, ma'am. Finish up here, please. Bliff said, Yes, ma'am, as she disappeared into the corridor. The airlock door opened, and Park floated midair. Pasini drifted into her arms and the kiss was soft, but the embrace was passionate. "How are you feeling?" Park asked. "Feeling good," Pasini replied. The second, third, fourth, and fifth kiss completed conversation. Thank you for listening to E Pluribus Unum. This is the end of Season 1. If you liked this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you for listening. Whimsical Node is committed to producing and providing the best quality stories possible. All stories are written by humans. Thank you again, and until then.
Orchestra of death, 60 million years to pass, notes of debris set to sound. It is played loud and strong to pummel from above on waters, cities, and lands. A scientist looks to the sky, her thoughts secure humankind's fate. Doom is set, there is an end date. A plan is presented, all nations agree. Humans will not die. Coming together with one goal, one task. Our destiny is not to fade or drift away, but working as one. Our mark is here, it will stay. Each where it will stay. Each Pluribus Unum, a place for all to exist. One from many is the cry, many nations to one people. In the shadows awaits, set to destroy. Glory to God, His might will be obeyed. The many against the one, sabotage, sacrifice, chaos. The plan for one must never be. A friend's embrace, love is secure. Coded whispers, forever here, unafraid. A pilot of great resolve, strength and control. Into the rocks at her command. Vandu rising side by side, conquering the dust beast. Success today, coming together in a feast. E Pluribus Unum, one from many, all to see. Build our arcs massive and grand, break the bonds of gravity. E Pluribus Unum, hearts on fire, a symphony of hope, one voice to inspire. From many the one, the stars belong to us. A new dawn rise in an endless night. Our hearts is one, many nations together. Each Pluribus Unum, it shall be done.